You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hey y'all, welcome to the Hella Well with Danielle podcast, your weekly mental vacation from the daily grind for busy women of color who are on their healing journey and just need a little bit of guidance. I'm your tour guide, Danielle Washington, and today's episode is all about making room for imperfection. I know, I said the dirty word, imperfection, which means not being perfect. I get that this could be a little bit triggering and it can feel again like a dirty word, but hopefully after today's episode, it won't feel as triggering as we'll be exploring ways that you can make room for imperfection, which is so important to our mental well-being, our emotional well-being, and our physical well-being. So today I'm going to be providing you with some practical and realistic wellness tips for developing a more compassionate approach to your self-care and getting a little bit cozier with the ideal of being imperfect. But before we get started, I always love for us to do some breathing exercises and to drop into our bodies so we're out of our head. Oftentimes when we're focusing on being perfect, we are focusing in from our head. So I want us to take a moment to do some exercises and breathing, closing our eyes, and really connecting to our heart. So if you have the opportunity, please take a moment to close your eyes, plant your feet firmly on the ground, whether you're standing or sitting, turning off any noises that may come up. So maybe turning your phone on Do Not Disturb, quieting the room, closing the door, and begin to connect to your breath. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and exhaling it through your nose. And we're going to do a count of 4. So we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to hold 2, 3, 4, and then exhaling through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling deeply. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last time, inhale deeply. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And this time we're going to exhale out of our mouth with a sigh. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then inhale deeply. Exhale deeply, flutter your eyes open, reconnecting with the space around you, and let's get into today's episode. Imperfection. It just feels dirty. It just doesn't feel right. And I get it, because when I first started getting cozy and getting comfortable and making room and space for imperfection, the ego, the inner child, whoever you want to call, it wasn't having it. It was like, that's not who we are. That's not what we do. And I get it, because as a Black woman, we're often raised to believe that we have to be perfect in every aspect of our life. There's not a point in our life, if it's putting on our shoes a certain way, we're going to be perfect at that. If we're just doing our job, we're going to be perfect at that. We feel like we have to excel in our careers and being an amazing mother, amazing wife, auntie, whatever your role is, having flawless skin, perfect bodies, and the list goes on and on and on. But the truth is, perfection is not possible. is an impossible standard to achieve. I've said it before and I will continue to say it. It is the most unattainable goal that you will ever make in your life. It is a goal not to even make, but we do because we're raised to feel like we have to be perfect. So we make this unrealistic goal. And it's a problem. It's a problem because it leads to unrealistic expectations, constant feelings of failure. When we strive for perfection, we're setting ourselves up to utterly 100% card-carrying fail, dramatically fail. We're setting ourselves up for disappointment and for burnout. We become so focused on what we're not doing right that we can't even appreciate what we're doing well, what we're excelling in. Because the cloud of not being perfect is weighing us down and we can't see the beautiful things that we're doing. And that kind of sucks. So perfection, it just leads to so many different problems. On top of that, it leads to anxiety, depression. It leads to other mental, physical issues that lead up in our body, trying to strive for perfection, and that it leads to energetic blocks that show up in our body, that show up in many different ways. It can lead to physical issues in our body, such as things like high blood pressure, overeating and having weight issues. It can show up in so many different ways: diabetes, heart issues, pains in your back. There's just so many different ways that what we don't realize is an energetic block, because we're striving for this unattainable goal, will show up and manifest in our body in physical ways. And it just negatively impacts our relationships, our careers, because again, we're striving for something that's not attainable, our self-esteem. And so it's honestly, it's time, ladies. It's time to let go of the pressure to be perfect and start embracing imperfection. And I say this from someone who gets that this can feel like the most triggering conversation. So if this feels triggering to you, I invite you to take moments to pause and breathe through this. I'm giving you this information because I don't want you to go out and change your entire life and think that has to be done after this one episode. No. We didn't strive and get into this mindset that we have to be perfect in one day. So in this 20 minutes that we're together or longer, I'm not expecting you to make these drastic changes, but I'm inviting you from a soul perspective to drop into your heart and say, hey, okay, maybe I can't be perfect. Maybe I can accept that that's not an attainable goal. And then ask yourself, how can I allow moments of imperfection? How can I make room for imperfection? And there's so many benefits behind embracing imperfection. It increases your resilience. Like embracing imperfection allows you to bounce back faster. It allows you to manage and flow through challenges in life more easily. I think that's the right word to say, more easily. That works for me. It also improves our creativity by letting go of this need to be perfect and just spot on and the best at all times. We can tap into our own creativity, exploring new ideals and possibilities. We honestly have more authentic relationships because when you're striving to be perfect, there's the mask. You can't be who you are authentically because the mask shows up. And when the mask shows up, that's your representative. And that doesn't feel good. It adds into more energetic blocks that I was talking about before earlier. But you're not able to have true connections when your representative is showing up. Because you have to be, because I have to be perfect, so I need to show the representative. So when you're able to make more room for being imperfect, you're able to have these authentic relationships. It allows you to show up as your true self in these relationships, and it fosters deep connections with others, which is ultimately what we want in life. We want to have these deep connections. We don't want to have fake relationships. I can recount so many times of friendships I had and work situations where I'm like, these people have no clue who I am. And it's not their fault. It's because I had to be perfect. And so I couldn't show them that I had bad days. I couldn't show them that I didn't know certain things. I couldn't show them the me that is quirky, the me that has all these different things, the me that's authentically true and is who she is, because that would be confirming that I'm not perfect. So I had a bunch of relationships where I just wasn't happy in them because they didn't know who I was. And that was my fault. It had no fault to them. It was my fault. And I found myself blaming other people. Like, I don't understand why they don't get me. And now that I look back on it, they didn't get me because I wasn't being true to myself. I wasn't showing who I was because I had to be perfect. Being able to embrace imperfection also gives you a greater sense of self-acceptance. By accepting our imperfections, we can learn to accept ourselves more fully. And it increases your self-esteem. Like, once I was able to be okay with not being okay, did a whole podcast on that one. But once I was able to be okay with not being okay, once I was okay with not having the answers, and even more importantly, once I was okay of not having to give the answer to show that I could be everything to everyone, I started loving me more. I started feeling more grounded in who I was. And I saw my self-esteem and my self-worth just increase and expand. It also, being able to embrace imperfection helped me reduce my stress. I was letting go of the need of being perfect. I was letting go of the need to have all the answers. I was letting go of the need to be everything for everyone. And it reduced not only my stress, but my daily anxieties in my life. And I just showed up in a more joyful way. It led to me being more joy-filled, fulfilling my life dreams, feeling happier, smiling more. It sounds crazy, but I found that I was smiling more. I didn't have the resting bee face often, as I kind of sometimes felt like I had. I felt more joyful, and I was able to appreciate the beauty and the small things in life. And I was able to make those connections with real friends and real people. Listen, I understand overcoming perfectionism is not an easy task. It doesn't have to be hard, but it could be one of the hardest things that you do. And that's okay. I want you to be open to the fact that it's not something that you can perfect. You can't perfect overcoming perfection. That's like the opposite of that. But I want you to invite yourself into taking a step towards making room for imperfection in your lives. I know that it requires some self-awareness and some self-reflection that you may not want to deal with right away. It may be something you have to do in baby steps and not do it all at one time. I said it before, we didn't get into this mindset of needing to be perfect in one day. So getting out of it's not going to be a one and done situation. But being able to recognize how our negative self-talk and our patterns and our behaviors are at the root of perfectionism is a place to start. It's when we can begin to challenge and reframe those thoughts. And that's why I started doing what I'm calling positivity. I drink tea all the time, so I'm like Positivity Tuesdays. And I like to be able to switch negative self-talk phrases like, oh, I'm not enough, or, I can't speak out on being, discrimination, or I can't be all these different things, or I can't achieve certain things because of my age, or what I can't achieve what other people are doing, and shifting those thoughts into positive ones. Because our negative self-talk is the root of us feeling that we need to be perfect, because we're telling ourselves through that negative chat, that inner mean girl is telling us that we have to be perfect. So we're able to shift and reframe those words, shift and reframe our behaviors and our habits, and adding in self-compassion, reminding ourselves that we're human. We are human, and we are perfectly imperfect humans. That's when the changes happen. That's when we start seeing more joy in our life. That's when we start seeing less energetic blocks in our life. That's when we start seeing less feelings of being overwhelmed and burnt out and exhaustion. Being able to set realistic goals and expectations can also help us embrace the imperfection and letting go of this need of control. Yeah, I said it. Letting go of the need for control. And that's a huge part of that's a huge part of feeling like we need to be perfect, is because we need to be in control. Because if we're in control, then we feel safe. Imperfection can feel like we're not safe because it's this unknown. Well, if I don't know it all, who am I? You're an amazing being. You are one of one. You are the only one. You are unique and powerful. And that's kind of epic. Through our commitment to self-awareness and self-reflection, we can begin to make progress towards overcoming perfectionism and living a more fulfilled life and an imperfect life. And that's what living really feels like. That's what hella well living feels like. But it's important for us to take action, to make room for imperfection in our lives. This isn't a philosophy situation. This is a let's make some moves type of situation. This can involve letting go of perfectionist tendencies, embracing our flaws and celebrating them. Practical steps include setting realistic goals for yourself, practicing self-compassion and grace, seeking out support when you need it, knowing that I'm perfectly imperfect and I can't do it all. I don't know it all, and it's okay. And more importantly, saying that I am perfectly imperfect and I can't be everything to everyone else, especially if I'm not doing it for myself first. I encourage you to share your experiences and your tips about embracing your imperfection with other women. It's about us lifting each other up. And one of the best ways we can lift each other up is by embracing each other's imperfections and celebrating the fact that we are each lovely, beautiful, epic, one of one, imperfect humans. So let's make some room for imperfection. Let's get cozy with it. It's essential to our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. By letting go of perfectionism, we can experience greater self-acceptance, self-compassion, and overall live hella well. You are worthy of being imperfect. You are worthy of making room and getting cozy with being imperfect. Thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe to our podcast, leave a review. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.